From giant bees selling for thousands to carnivorous sea sponges, here are 8 of the craziest animal discoveries. Number 8. The eerie case of the Oregon bulls. Over a period of several July days in 2019, in an area of eastern Oregon, 5 dead bulls were discovered under very mysterious and creepy circumstances. The first body was found in a ditch with no indication of violent trauma. It was also noted that the bull's tongue and reproductive organs had been completely removed and that the animal's body was entirely drained of its blood. As the days progressed, 4 more bulls turned up dead in the exact same way. Also unsettling, there were no tracks, human or animal, anywhere near the bulls. The case sparked fear and anxiety among local farmers and ranchers, who were advised to always travel in pairs and never leave their properties unarmed. The case went viral online as well, and theories ranged from people purposefully harming and killing the animals, for financial revenge against ranchers, all the way to cult activity and even aliens abducting and experimenting on them. Local Sheriff Deputy Dan Jenkins led the investigation, but the lack of evidence and witnesses made it hard to find out what had happened. As the investigation continued, a few US senators urged the FBI to get in on the case and help out in solving it. But before they could, the attacks completely stopped. To this day, it is still unknown who or what is responsible for the deaths of the livestock, making the case all the more chilling. 7. Giant bees rediscovered after decades. Would you pay thousands of dollars for a bee? Probably not. But someone on eBay almost paid $9,100 for one. What kind of bee was this? It's known as Wallace's giant bee. And just like the name suggests, this bee is giant. It has a wingspan of 6.35 centimeters. Fully grown adults can be as large as a human thumb. Yikes! Imagine getting stung by something like that. But perhaps even more shocking than the bee's size is the fact that scientists believed it to be completely extinct for 38 years before the insect was rediscovered in January of 2019 by a group of international conservationists on Indonesian North Moluccas Islands. The discovery wasn't easy though, mainly due to the bees' remote habitat and rarity. The bees make their homes by digging holes in the nests of tree-dwelling termites, where they spend much of their time just hiding. Wallace's giant bees can not only be recognized by their size, but also their large, intimidating teeth. Yikes again! Despite having these big fangs, big old chompers, the bees tend to feed only on nectar and pollen from local flowers instead of other insects. Dr. Simon Robson of the University of Sydney, who was part of the expedition team that rediscovered the bee, said everyone on the team was eager to get stung by the bee just to be able to know how painful it was. Now that's what we call dedicated to the cause. He also added that once they did find a specimen, they were very careful with how they handled it. After all, everyone thought the bee was extinct. The year prior to this, a seller on eBay allegedly found an unaccounted for Wallace's giant bee and put the insect on sale for $9,100. In order to further protect the bees from being sought after and bought and sold to people who don't have their best interests in mind, the conservationist team decided not to disclose the exact island where they made their discovery. 6. Thresher shark versus swordfish. In April of 2020, residents of Libya discovered the dead body of a 4.4-meter thresher shark washed up on the beach, not far from the town of Briga. It wasn't just the big shark itself that drew so much attention, but also the fact that it was found to have the sword part of a swordfish lodged into its side. No one was able to witness the scuffle between the two ocean creatures, so it's uncertain why or how the sword ended up stabbed into the shark's body. But the most widely accepted theory is that the two were fighting for either territory or prey. The story went viral and shed some light into the sheer aggression that swordfish can have, with stories spreading about how they've attacked divers, turtles, and even whales. For instance, a swordfish attacked and killed a diver in Hawaii in 2015 when it made the mistake of swimming into a harbor. Experts were able to point out that the swordfish definitely attacked the shark from an above angle because of the placement of the stab wound. They discovered that the swordfish also stabbed the shark behind its head, striking a fatal blow to its gills. It's often hard to see evidence of attacks like these because sharks almost always sink when they die as a result of their bodies having negative buoyancy. The swordfish obviously left the fight with severe physical damage, but that doesn't necessarily mean the fish had the same fate as the shark. Scientists have pointed out that billfish, a close relative to swordfish, have been known to lose their pointy noses for various reasons and still survive and live long and healthy lives. So it's totally possible the swordfish responsible for what happened to the shark is still alive and well to this day. Wait, if a swordfish loses its sword, does that make it just a fish? I'm only half kidding here. Number 5. The wildlife of the Chernobyl exclusion zone. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster of 1986 is described as one of the worst nuclear disasters in current world history. The Ukrainian city of Pripyat had to be completely abandoned, and every person living in and around it had to be relocated when the nearby power plant suffered a massive radioactive explosion. What is left today is an eerie, apocalyptic husk of a city that's been almost entirely overtaken by nature. In the immediate aftermath of the tragedy, Soviet soldiers were ordered to find and shoot surviving animals to stop them from spreading radiation and causing further damage. But numerous different animal species, as well as many types of plants, have been found still thriving in the exclusion zone. For instance, wolves and bears have lived relatively unbothered lives now that people are prohibited from living in the area by Ukrainian law. Other animals observed to be living amongst the unsettlingly quiet and overgrown city include bison, deer, moose, lynx, foxes, and 200 species of birds. Some scientists speculated that the radiation from the explosion would cause extremely abnormal defects in the animals, but upon research and inspection, they noticed the animals didn't look much different from their counterparts in non-radioactive habitats. Some visible mutations, such as albinism in barn swallow birds, have been noted, but overall, the rate is much lower than many experts imagine it would be. There may not be any three-headed goats wandering around, but scientists have noted significant genetic changes in organisms affected by the disaster. According to a study conducted in 2001 in Biological Conservation, Chernobyl caused genetic mutations in plants and animals increased by a factor of 20. Would you ever visit Chernobyl? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you're watching this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 4. Scorched serpents. After a devastating series of forest fires in Indonesia in July of 2019, workers discovered a graveyard of scorched serpents unlike anything ever seen in the country. It was horrible enough that people had to flee their homes to get away from the destructive blaze. But what nobody had expected was for a bizarre race of supergiant snakes to get burned up in the fire too. These poor snakes had nowhere to go as their home was literally ablaze all around. The snakes were found charred, burned alive, and although they were hard to identify because of their crispy condition, they were generally believed to be pythons, most likely Burmese pythons. Wait until you hear how big they were. A normal python only grows to be around 6 meters long. The burnt ones in Indonesia were estimated at nearly 10 meters in length, bigger than any python found to date. Everyone was in disbelief over the size of them. Nobody knows how such massive serpents went undiscovered for so long. Maybe they were smarter than other snakes and stayed hidden in the forest. But unfortunately, they were all burned up and we may never see a group of pythons this big again. 3. Spider eats possum in a hotel room. This next story could have come straight out of a horror film, or, just Australia. While vacationing on the island state of Tasmania, Justine Lattin and her husband returned to their hotel room to discover a huge huntsman spider eating a possum while hanging above their room's door. The Lattins quickly captured photos of the spider and Justine shared them to a Facebook account, where the horrifying pictures went viral over the course of a few days. The possum the spider had caught was a pygmy possum, which on average grows around 6.35 centimeters long. They are completely dwarfed by the huntsman spider, which can have leg spans of up to 33 centimeters. Graham Millage of the Australian Museum's Arachnology Department weighed in on the subject, saying that this kind of sighting is very unusual. Millage stated that while huntsman spiders still go after larger prey, they often stick to only small birds, geckos and frogs when in need of a meal. The Lattins were able to successfully catch both animals and release them outside of the room. The spider ran off unharmed, but the possum didn't go anywhere because it was already dead. Number 2. Carnivorous sponges discovered by scientists. It's no secret that the deep sea is home to some bizarre and interesting creatures, and the recent discovery of carnivorous sea sponges living off the South Australian coast only proves this more. The vast majority of sea sponges use a filter system to feed, as well as to collect oxygen to survive. Carnivorous sponges, on the other hand, have been observed using the filaments and hooks on their body to catch and consume tiny crustaceans, fish, and any other prey of a reasonable size. There were actually 3 species of carnivorous sponges discovered, all of which were close relatives to a non-carnivorous sponge family, but still highly different from it. So the same, but different. Kind of like any other family. The range of ocean depth the sponges were found at varied greatly as well, with this hungry trio being found at depths that range from around 160 meters all the way to 3,000 meters deep. These sponges were the first ever found in the South Australian Ocean, although multiple others have been discovered in other Australian waters. In terms of what they looked like, they all seem to resemble flowers, with various spikes protruding from different parts of their bodies. We've known about the existence of carnivorous sponges since the mid-1990s, but since then, scientists' knowledge of the creatures has almost doubled in terms of what we now know about their characteristics and functions. Merrick Eakins, the manager of the Queensland Museum's Marine Invertebrate Collection, said that this discovery goes to show the sheer amount of ocean we have yet to explore and how many strange new species we have yet to discover. Since we have so much seafloor to continue to explore. Hey, that rhymes! There's no telling how many other varieties of carnivorous sponge are out there, just waiting to be found. So much to look forward to. Number 1. The story of Rosie the shark. In early 2019, Luke McPherson, a YouTuber who mainly dedicates his channel to documenting his explorations of abandoned buildings and places, went exploring through the defunct property of a wildlife park in Victoria, Australia. McPherson stumbled upon a massive tank full of old green water. He continued on until he was on the opposite side of the tank, which he could now see much more clearly since it was illuminated from the other end. McPherson was shocked to discover a 5-meter-long dead shark floating aimlessly near the tank's glass wall. Before it was abandoned, the park, known as Wildlife Wonderland, was once a very popular attraction within the city. However, the park was shut down in 2012 when reports of the park not having the license required to house and display some of its native animals came to light. The park's operator was found to be in violation of Australia's 1975 Wildlife Act, so he closed the park and gave the park's animals away to actual licensed organizations. The story behind the shark corpse, named Rosie, is that she was caught in a fishing net in 1998, which ended up killing her. An artist obtained the shark's body and preserved it before giving it to Wildlife Wonderland to be put on display. Very strong chemicals were used to preserve the body to the degree that it was, and McPherson noted that he was able to smell them since the top of the tank had been removed before he was there. Due to the tank having no lid, the water is evaporating, which is starting to expose Rosie's body to open air, and will inevitably completely destroy her if it continues. Rosie still lives on in photos and videos, regardless of what her fate will eventually be as the condition of the tank and park deteriorates further over the years. Thanks for watching this video. Do you know of any other scary animal findings we didn't mention? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!